So today we have verses 40, 41 and 42 of chapter 10, the Vibhuti Yoga lined up. We'll be concluding the chapter today. Verse number 40, I will start. Nantosti mam devyana vibhuti nam parantapa esha tu deshat prokto vibhuter vistaro maya. So Shri Krishna says that there is no end to my divine manifestation, O Parantapa, name for Arjun. This is only a brief statement by me of the extent of my manifestation. So let's take this up word by word. Na is not, ant is end, asti is mam, my, divyanam, of divine, vibhutinam, manifestations. Parantapa is a name for Arjun, which means scorcher of foes, destroyer of foes. Isha is this, tu only, uddeshat is briefly, prokta stated, vibhute amongst the manifestations, vistara extent, maya by me. So there is no end to my divine manifestations, O Parantapa. This is only a brief statement by me of the extent of my manifestations. So let's chant it together. Nanantosti mam devyanam vibhutinam parantapa esha tu dveshat prokto vibhute vistaro maya. So now Krishna is coming back to say almost what he said in verse number 19 of this chapter, where he started his, detailing out his salient manifestations. And in that verse, he had said that, well, I will declare to you my salient divine glories, O best of the Kurus. There is no end to my detailing. I mean, it cannot end because I'm infinite. So from verse 20 onwards till the previous verse, which is 39, so we have been, listening to his various salient manifestations where he's bringing out or he's stating that he is the best, let's say, amongst the category of cows, amongst the category of elements, beasts, among sages, amongst fraudulent activities. So those various things we've been reading, so far. But they are only some of his salient glories. It is just a glimpse, as it were, because Brahman's expressions are actually endless, and there is no end to Brahman's manifestations, splendor, and glory. It is like someone who does not know how electricity can be harnessed or used requests electricity to to show all its manifestations. So electricity can go on manifesting itself endlessly, so in the form of heat, in a heater, in a toaster, etc., as a cooling agent in your ACs and refrigerators, as a light-giving element in the bulbs, filaments, tube lights, etc. So it goes on and on. There's no end. So the electricity can go on manifesting endlessly. Similarly, Brahman is inherent in the world, and not only in this world, Brahman transcends the world itself, the world also. So it pervades the entire creation, the entire universe, in an infinite expanse of glory and power. So what Krishna is saying, that whatever I have mentioned in these verses is not exhaustive. These are just the salient manifestations of mine. My detailing is endless. So because divinities everywhere. So this is the long and short of what Krishna is saying in this verse, that this is a brief statement. This is just a executive summary of the salient manifestations of mind. So that was verse 40. We move on to verse 41. Yadyat vibhuti matsatvam Shrimaturjitmeva va tat devavagacham tvam mama tejom sambhava. So Krishna continues to say that whatever it is that is glorious, prosperous, or powerful, know you that only to be a manifestation of a part of my splendor. So let's take this up word by word. Yat yat is what, Vibhutim is glorious, Sattvam exists, Shrimat is prosperity or prosperous, Urjitam is powerful, Ev also, Va or Tat that. So tat becomes that, Ev only, Avgacha no, Tvam you, Mam my, Tejom Sambhavam. So Tej is my splendor. So Tejo Ansh Sambhava. Ansh is a part. Sambhav from that. So the word Tejom Sambhavam becomes manifestation of a part of my splendor. Right? So whatever it is that is glorious, prosperous, or powerful, know you that only to be a manifestation of a part of my splendor. Let's chant it together. Yat yat vibhuti matsatvam Shrimadurjitameva tat devavagacham mam tejom. So see, Arjun had requested for the Lord to show his or explain his manifestations. So consequently, in answer to Arjun's question, Krishna had started listing his salient manifestations. And as he mentioned in the previous verse and in verse number 19, that it's impossible for him to detail out everything for Arjun. The Lord is now, in this particular verse, is leaving a pointer for Arjun. Pointer for, because Arjun had said, when he had asked the question, he had said that tell me all your various manifestations so that I may know you better. So this verse is pointing out the way in which Arjun can try to understand that Brahman. What Krishna is saying is that whatever is glorious, prosperous, and powerful in any being, know that to be my manifestation. Right? So when you see, let's say, an intelligent person or a great artist, so you have Picasso and Monet, and when you see their work, or Raja Ravi Verma, a brilliant scientist, so you have Einstein, so whatever is motivating you, wherever is you notice that extra glow in performance, thoughts, and action, understand that to be a small part or just a ray of my manifestation, my tej, my glory. This is what Krishna is saying. Now, in this verse, the stress is on the spectacular expressions. Even though Brahman is omnipresent and is also there in the negatives, which we have been reading in the verses 22 onwards till 39. So both the good and the bad are there. But the stress is on the spectacular expressions in this particular verse, because it is the exceptional qualities that motivate us, that inspire us. And this is human nature. I mean, you are not really I mean, unless you want to be a thief or a murderer, you are not really inspired by such kind of people. You are inspired by people who are making profits, who are rich, who are doing well, who are brilliant scientists, who are brilliant lawyers, who excel in their field. Those are the people who motivate you, right? So that is why Krishna is laying stress on the prosperity, glory, and power in this particular verse. And the other thing we have to remember is that the less spiritually evolved we are, the more, glamour or splendor we need to motivate us, or notice the presence of Brahman in those things, or in those people, or those activities, right? The more spiritually evolved we are, the less of flamboyance do we need. I mean, we see the presence of God even in a leaf, in a flower, or even within ourselves when we look at our own body. So the amount of motivation we need depends upon our spiritual evolution, what state we are at. At the end of the day, what matters is that whatever it is that inspires us should remind us of Brahman. And Krishna is understanding Arjun's nature and therefore laying stress on the spectacular expressions of Brahman, of himself, so that Arjun can find it easier to relate to Brahman. And here we must appreciate and the scripture that it is appealing to the human nature, and depending on the kind of person, the solution is being provided to that person. The Lord is trying to broaden Arjun's limited concept so that he can encompass the omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence of God, right? So that is why he is saying that whatever is glorious, prosperous, and powerful, please know that it is only a spark or only a ray of my splendor. It's just a fragment of my splendor. Moving on to the last verse, 42nd verse. Atva bahunetin kim gyatena tavarjuna vrishtabhyaham kritsnam ekanshen sthito jagat. Last verse, interestingly, translates to, but what is the knowledge of these details to you, O Arjuna? Having pervaded this entire universe, by one fragment, I remain. Okay. Let's take this up word by word. Atva, or alternately. Bahuna is by many. Etain, by this. Kim, what? Gyaten, by knowing or by being known. Tav, your. Arjun, O Arjuna. Vrishtabhya, having pervaded. Aham, I. Idam, this. Kritsnam, entire, all. Ekanshen, by a fragment, by a fraction. Sthita, remain. I remain. I is implied. Jagat is universe. So, by what is the knowledge of these details? Sorry, but what is the knowledge of these details to you, O Arjuna? Having pervaded this entire universe, by one fragment, I remain. Okay, so let's chant it together. Atva bahune tena kim gyatena Arjuna vrishtabhyamedam kritsnam ekanshen sthito jagat. So in this verse, actually, Krishna is sad or pitying Arjun's limited vision of the Supreme that he has asked for. So even if you remember when Arjuna had asked the question, Krishna answers that, well, okay, I will start detailing out my salient manifestation. He was not too happy at that point of time. And similarly here, he's, because when Arjuna is requesting for Lord's diverse manifestations by which Arjun can relate to Brahman, it actually means only one thing, that Arjun has not understood the Lord's infinitude, and he's not able to comprehend, he's not understood it, and hence he's asking for the various things in which the various manifestations of the Brahman. So therefore, because Arjuna is not understood, Krishna asked that, what is the point of this detailed knowledge to you, Arjuna? Now, Krishna has actually analytically presented his salient vibhutis that we have seen in all the various categories, that we have been reading. Here he comes in the last verse, he's saying, while identifying with Supreme Brahman, he says that the entire universe is just a fragment of his infinitude, or the universe itself is a small drop in the vast ocean of Brahman. Brahman transcends the universe as well. And Krishna is therefore sympathizing with Arjun's query to know Brahman's terrestrial expressions or manifestations, rather than his complete being, the whole, whatever that Brahman is. Instead of that, Arjun is asking for this fragment of information or knowledge. And Krishna is ending his answer to Arjun's question by declaring that there is no use of detailed enumeration of his divine glories, because his glories are infinite, and what he's presenting before Arjun or before us is finite. So, and the limitation is that if instead of 20 verses, Krishna was to go on to explain in 200 verses, those 200 verses will also be finite. So the infinite glories cannot be expressed in finite words or in finite terms. So hence, this is how he's ending the question. With this intriguing thought, the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita concludes. And actually the stage for the 11th chapter is set. In this chapter, we saw how Brahman pervades everything. And the 11th chapter, which is the Vishvarup Darshan Yoga, right? Or the yoga of the cosmic vision, explains to us how everything is in Brahman. So that is the stage which is set. And with that, we will conclude today's session.